This topic is one you simply cannot ignore. Census 2027 and caste enumeration have become one of the biggest governance discussions in India. This topic is not just important for current affairs, but also for Indian polity, governance, society, social justice and public administration. It has the potential to appear in UPSC prelims, GS Paper 2, GS Paper 1 and even an essay. Therefore, let us understand this topic from the very beginning. Imagine you are the district collector of a newly created district. The government asks you to construct 10 new schools, 5 hospitals and several Anganwadi centers. Before starting the work, what would be your first question? You would certainly ask how many people live in the district. How many children need schools? How many elderly people require healthcare? Which villages have poor housing? Which areas lack drinking water? Without reliable data, no government can prepare an effective development plan. This is exactly why the census is considered the backbone of governance. Every policy, every welfare scheme and every development program begins with accurate population data. The Government of India has announced that the next population census will be conducted in 2027. Along with this announcement, another issue has once again entered the national debate. That issue is caste enumeration. Some people argue that caste data is essential for social justice and evidence-based policymaking. Others believe that it may strengthen caste identities and create political divisions. Understanding both sides of this debate is extremely important for every UPSC aspirant because the examination expects balanced analysis rather than one-sided opinions. So, what exactly is a census? A census is the official process through which the government collects demographic, social and economic information from every individual living in the country. Unlike surveys, which collect information from only a sample of the population, the census attempts to reach every household. This makes it the largest and most reliable source of population data available to the government. India conducts one of the biggest census operations in the world. Lakhs of enumerators travel to remote villages, tribal areas, deserts, islands and metropolitan cities to collect information from every household. The exercise requires years of planning, extensive training, digital infrastructure and coordination among different government departments. It is one of the largest peacetime administrative exercises conducted anywhere in the world. The history of the census in India dates back to the British period. The first census was conducted in 1872 during the tenure of Lord Mayo. However, it was not conducted simultaneously across the country. The first synchronous census covering the entire country took place in 1881 under W. C. Plowden. Since then, India has conducted a population census every 10 years. Even after independence, this tradition continued successfully until the census scheduled for 2021 had to be postponed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result, Census 2027 assumes exceptional importance because policymakers have been working with decade-old demographic data for a much longer period than originally expected. The legal foundation for conducting the census is provided by the Census Act of 1948. Now let us understand the constitutional perspective behind caste enumeration. The Constitution of India is based on the principles of justice, equality and fraternity. At the same time, the makers of the Constitution recognized that certain sections of society had suffered historical discrimination for centuries. Therefore, the Constitution not only guarantees equality but also permits special measures to ensure substantive equality. Article 14 guarantees equality before the law and equal protection of laws. It ensures that every citizen is treated equally by the state. However, equality does not always mean treating everyone in exactly the same manner. Sometimes, people who are socially and educationally backward require additional support to achieve equal opportunities. This idea forms the foundation of affirmative action in India. Article 15 prohibits discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. However, Article 15 also empowers the state to make special provisions for socially and educationally backward classes, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Article 16 guarantees equality of opportunity in matters of public employment. Clause 4 of this article allows reservation in government jobs for backward classes that are not adequately represented in public services. Therefore, whenever governments review reservation policies, reliable socio-economic data becomes extremely important. Another important constitutional provision is Article 46. It directs the state to promote the educational and economic interests of scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other weaker sections of society. It also directs the state to protect them from social injustice and exploitation. This article forms an important part of the directive principles of state policy and reflects the constitutional commitment towards inclusive development. One of the most important articles related to today's discussion is Article 340. It empowers the President of India to appoint a commission to investigate the conditions of socially and educationally backward classes and recommend measures for their advancement. This article led to the establishment of important commissions such as the Kaka Kalelkar Commission and the Mandal Commission, both of which have had a profound impact on India's reservation policy. Let us now understand these commissions. The first Backward Classes Commission, popularly known as the Kaka Kalelkar Commission, was established in 1953. It examined the conditions of socially and educationally backward communities and submitted its report in 1955. Although many of its recommendations were not implemented, it initiated an important national discussion on backward class welfare. The second Backward Classes Commission, commonly known as the Mandal Commission, was established in 1979 under the chairmanship of Bindeshwari Prasad Mandal. The commission collected extensive socio-economic information and recommended 27% reservation for other backward classes in central government services and educational institutions. The implementation of these recommendations in the early 1990s became one of the most significant milestones in India's social justice policies. The recommendations of the Mandal Commission also resulted in one of the most important judgments delivered by the Supreme Court. In the famous Indira Sahni vs. Union of India case of 1992, the Supreme Court upheld reservations for other backward classes while introducing the concept of the creamy layer. The court observed that reservation should benefit socially and educationally backward communities and not the economically advanced sections within those communities. The judgment also stated that reservations should ordinarily not exceed 50%, except under extraordinary circumstances. Another important judgment is M. Nagaraj vs. Union of India delivered in 2006. In this case, the Supreme Court held that before providing reservation and promotions, governments must collect quantifiable data demonstrating backwardness, inadequate representation, and the need for reservation. This judgment strengthened the importance of reliable data in policymaking. These judgments explain why discussions on caste enumeration have gained significance. Many policymakers argue that if governments require quantifiable data for reservation-related decisions, then updated demographic information becomes increasingly important. Now let us understand the social implications. India is one of the most socially diverse countries in the world. Thousands of communities with different languages, cultures, traditions and occupations contribute to the nation's rich heritage. The Constitution aims to create a society based on justice, liberty, equality and fraternity. Achieving these constitutional ideals requires identifying groups that continue to face disadvantages and ensuring that development reaches every section of society. Many social scientists argue that updated caste data can help evaluate whether social justice programs have produced the desired outcomes. It can identify educational gaps, health inequalities and employment disparities among different communities. Such information can improve policymaking in areas such as scholarships, skill development, healthcare access and poverty reduction. However, there is another perspective. Some experts believe that frequent public discussion of caste identities may strengthen social divisions instead of reducing them. They argue that national integration should remain the primary objective of public policy. Therefore, governments must balance social justice with social harmony. This balanced approach is often appreciated by UPSC examiners because it demonstrates analytical thinking rather than ideological bias. Now let us examine the political dimension. Caste has historically influenced electoral politics in several states. Political parties often design election strategies based on social composition and demographic patterns. Because of this, some observers believe that updated caste data could influence future political debates regarding reservation, representation, and welfare policies. Others argue that transparent demographic information can improve democratic decision-making by enabling informed public discussions. Therefore, the issue has both governance and political significance. Let us now understand the federal dimension of this debate. Several state governments have conducted or announced caste-based surveys within their respective jurisdictions. These surveys were undertaken with the objective of collecting updated socio-economic information about different communities. However, the population census is conducted by the Union government under the Census Act. This creates an interesting discussion regarding the respective roles of the Union and the states in collecting demographic information. Such issues are directly connected to Indian federalism and cooperative governance. Now let us discuss important government initiatives related to inclusive development. The Government of India has implemented several welfare programs that rely upon demographic and socio-economic data. PM Awas Yojana aims to provide affordable housing to eligible beneficiaries. Ayushman Bharat seeks to improve healthcare access for economically vulnerable families. PM Poshan supports nutritional needs of school children. Jal Jeevan Mission focuses on providing safe drinking water to rural households. Skill India Mission aims to improve employability through skill development. The success of such schemes depends upon identifying eligible beneficiaries accurately. Therefore, reliable demographic information becomes an important component of good governance. Now let us understand the role of Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog consistently emphasizes evidence-based policymaking and data-driven governance. It encourages the use of reliable statistics for improving service delivery, monitoring developmental outcomes and achieving sustainable development goals. Although Niti Aayog has not specifically prescribed caste enumeration as a policy requirement, it strongly advocates better quality data for effective planning and evaluation.
The importance of data in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, commonly known as the SDGs. Several SDGs, including no poverty, quality education, gender equality, reduced inequalities, and good health, require governments to identify vulnerable sections of society. Without reliable demographic information, measuring progress towards these goals becomes difficult. Therefore, quality population data contributes to both national development planning and international reporting obligations. Now let us compare India's approach with international practices. Most countries conduct regular population censuses to collect demographic information. However, the type of information collected varies according to each country's constitutional framework and social structure. The United States collects data regarding race and ethnicity. The United Kingdom collects information regarding ethnic background, religion, and national identity. Brazil collects information relating to race and color. South Africa also records demographic information relevant to its historical and social context. These examples show that countries design census questionnaires according to their own constitutional principles and developmental priorities. India must therefore develop an approach that reflects its unique social diversity while protecting constitutional values. Now let us discuss the major challenges associated with Census 2027 and caste enumeration. The first challenge is administrative complexity. India has thousands of caste and sub-caste names with regional variations. Ensuring accurate classification across every state requires extensive preparation and standardized coding systems. The second challenge is data accuracy. Citizens may report different caste names, local identities, or alternative spellings. Verification and standardization become difficult when dealing with such a large and diverse population. The third challenge is data privacy. Personal information collected during the census must remain confidential. Governments need strong cybersecurity systems and legal safeguards to prevent misuse of sensitive information. The fourth challenge is balancing social justice with national unity. Policymakers must ensure that demographic data supports inclusive development without encouraging unnecessary social divisions. The fifth challenge is technological preparedness. Modern census operations increasingly rely on digital devices, geospatial mapping, and online data management systems. Proper training of enumerators and reliable digital infrastructure are therefore essential. Now let us understand the way forward. The first priority should be ensuring that the census is conducted in a transparent, scientific, and technology-driven manner. The second priority should be maintaining confidentiality and public trust throughout the data collection process. The third priority should be using demographic information exclusively for evidence-based policy making and inclusive development. The fourth priority should be encouraging public awareness so that citizens understand the importance of participating honestly in the census exercise. Finally, governments should ensure that demographic data strengthens constitutional values of equality, justice, and fraternity while supporting long-term national development. Now let us quickly revise some important prelims facts. The census in India is conducted under the Census Act of 1948. The Office of the Registrar General and Census Commissioner functions under the Ministry of Home Affairs. The first synchronous census in India was conducted in 1881. The last completed population census was conducted in 2011. India follows a decennial census system. Information regarding scheduled castes and scheduled tribes has continued to be collected after independence. The socio-economic and caste census was conducted separately in 2011. Now let us practice some model preliminary examination questions. Question 1. Which of the following authority conducts the population census in India? Option A, Election Commission of India. Option B, Registrar General and Census Commissioner of India. Option C, Finance Commission. Option D, Niti Aayog. Question 2. Which article of the Constitution empowers the President to appoint a commission to investigate the conditions of socially and educationally backward classes? Option A, Article 338. Option B, Article 340. Option C, Article 356. Option D, Article 324. Question 3. Which of the following statements regarding the census in India is correct? Option A, it is conducted every 5 years. Option B, it is governed by the Census Act of 1948. Option C, it is conducted by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Option D, it is conducted by the Finance Ministry. Comment your answers. Now here is today's GS Paper 2 mains question. Census 2027 has revived the debate on caste enumeration in India. Discuss its constitutional basis, governance implications, challenges, and the way forward. Here is another GS Paper 1 question. Reliable demographic data is essential for evidence-based policymaking in a welfare state. Critically examine this statement with reference to Census 2027. To conclude, Census 2027 is not merely a statistical exercise. It is the foundation upon which future governance, development planning, and social justice policies will be built. The debate on caste enumeration reflects the broader challenge of balancing equality, social justice, administrative efficiency, and national unity. As future civil servants, your responsibility is not to take extreme positions, but to understand the constitutional principles, governance requirements, and developmental objectives that guide public policy. For UPSC aspirants, this topic represents an excellent example of how static concepts and current affairs come together to test analytical ability. Thank you for watching. Stay connected for more UPSC current affairs masterclasses, where we simplify complex national issues into examination-oriented content.